Alright everybody, Evil Murkies versus Fnatic, the semi-final at the Go for Heroes tournament, and we have our best of one here with Cursed Hollow being the map, and as you can see, Sonya is what Fnatic is trying to get rid of immediately. I mean, if you ban out a Sonya this early, it basically signals the other team that you would be more than happy to take over that Illidan play, but usually Illidan gets still banned out here. Fnatic is already switching it up a little bit, they're basically just like moving between two bruisers there. It would definitely put a lot of pressure on Evil Murkies, and in the end probably allow Fnatic to at least go for one of the bruisers if they really wanted to. I could see them also try to aim for an early Sonya, which is basically a theme that we've seen in quite a few regions, but yeah, they try to get rid of her first of all. It's going to be pretty interesting to see if the teams are picking up a little bit more on Chromie now that she has been buffed in the latest patch, which would always be great. But for Fnatic is of course a bit of a test right now. They are not going to Sweden, they're not participating in the global finals, and for them this is kind of a bit of a test of how they actually can like check that out. The Thrall ban here now instead, so Sonya is still open. The Evil Murky is still quite likely to ban out an Illidan. The Illidan is like the bane of every single team. It depends a bit on if you feel that you have a good combo against Illidan. A lot of teams have been experimenting again with the Nubarox, for example, trying to use the Cocoon to just isolate Illidan a little bit, take the healer down for a moment and get a good burst and stun combo off against Illidan. But if that doesn't really hit immediately, then you end up in a situation where Illidan is going to rip you a new one, especially in the back line, and you're just trying to scramble just simply. So yeah, it's definitely not all that easy. So the Evil Murkies, as you can already tell, are pretty much in that spot where they're saying, we kind of want to get rid of Illidan, but at the same time, there's a lot of other stuff that is not too good as well. Khaldor is always a pain. If you can ban a Tassadar out, there's a good chance that they're doing that too. But the Evil Murkies are also very famous for going into early Sonya comps. And Sonya Tassadar is one of the, like, their standard when they draft. So if Fnatic picks Illidan, then the Evil Murkies are very likely to simply say, you know what, we are just like playing Tassadar and Sonya right now, and we are going to be able to deal with the Illidan. But instead, the Murkies are currently admitting that Illidan is just like a bit too strong here. They take him away, and Fnatic is immediately picking up Sonya. And now the Murkies are in a spot where they have access to Tassadar if they really want him, but they cannot get a bruiser with him anymore. So it's one of those things where you have to actually think about, okay, is it worth it for us to pick Tassadar away from the Sonya comp? In my opinion, it definitely should be. Even though we won't be able to put in another bruiser, but have to play that maybe with a Greymane, for example, which would still be a very nice addition to the Evil Murky setup, but Greymane usually a hero that comes into play during the draft a little bit later than that. But with the earlier Tassadar pick, kind of what we expected here, the Evil Murkies could also fall back into something that they have been doing a lot before they practiced for DreamHack Tours, where they actually went into Abathur Tracer. So, not really sure if they are willing to commit to something like this, but keep that in mind as we are progressing through the draft, because it's a strategy that the Murkies have definitely used in the past. That Abathur Tracer with the Tassadar can be pretty brutal. For now, though, it is Muradin, and Fnatic is countering with the Khaldor here, which is, as is, just a super powerful character to really get damage in. And Khaldor has been played in like almost every games in the European scene for quite a long time, so that would be the setup that you would kind of expect here. But Fnatic now have, of course, a chance to go into a strong healer setup, and that's what they're doing. They're going into a Rhaegar, which is normally what you see with like a Sonya. There's a couple of scenarios where you would maybe jump into an Uther instead, but Fnatic at this point really has to make that choice when it comes to the heal, unless, of course, they want to end up in a situation where even Murkies first of all ban one of them out, and then pick the second one. So unless they are okay playing a Charism here, or going a completely different way, with maybe even the Melf, which Fnatic isn't really known for, then Rhaegar is definitely the right choice. Evil Murkies, on the other hand, they're one of the teams that played with the Malfurion a lot. Like, they really like that style. But in the setup with Tassadar, they could also just simply decide to play an Uther with a Divine Shield and maybe put the Greymane in play and then try and jump the opponent's backline and really go ham with the Tassadar Shield, with the Divine Shield as a potential panic button to really save him. That's definitely an option for them. But for now, it's really time for the Murkies to just ban out maybe the front line a little bit. I mean, there's still a lot of really good damage healers also that you can think about. Greymane is open, we have Li Ming open, so you could really think about maybe taking one of the two away and picking the other one. But they decide that they want to make sure that Fnatic doesn't get the chance to go into a double support play with the Tyrande now as well. Especially, of course, since Tyrande is getting a huge amount of value on Cursed Hollow. It could have been a pick for the Evil Murkies. I mean, a Tassadar Tyrande composition is nothing nothing out of the ordinary, so it would have actually been a very sweet pick for them as well. But they get rid of Tyrande, so no owl interrupts in this game right now. Li Ming banged out by Fnatic, and the Evil Murkies I personally would really think that we're going to see a Greymane on their part, and maybe together with that Greymane, them jumping into Uther as the second healer. They don't necessarily have to pick him at this point, because the chances that Fnatic are going for Uther as well are slim to none. But if they don't pick their support right now and save him up for the last pick, they are not really flexible to react to anything that Fnatic is doing here. And that's one of the concerns that you oftentimes have, that you are going for a pick even though it's one that you don't have to do right now. And your opponent, therefore, is in a situation where you can still adjust a little bit to what they do. Falsehood is now a chance. There's an Abathur. Is it going to be the Tracer play? Like, Abathur on this map is, of course, great. You don't have to play a Tracer with him. But the Murkies are kind of known that they experimented with that a lot and played it quite a bit. So, I would love to see it. I mean, let's just put it out like that. I would love to see it. But either way, with Abathur, I'm already pretty happy to see that on their part. Kind of makes it a little bit unlikely that they're going to head into another healer as well. I could have seen Abathur, Greymane, Uther. Maybe that's something that they're still thinking about. Having a double Greymane in play is pretty powerful. But they decide in favor of Falstad. And they are now still pretty flexible on the last pick. With a Tassadar plus an Abathur, you don't have to go into another healer. There's always a chance that you will, but you can definitely react a bit. Fnatic, then again, they need a bit of damage output as well. We've been talking a lot about Chromie. She got a couple of buffs as well that you could try and use, of course. Besides that, frontline is important to them right now. So there's a lot of ways of how they can actually play this. They could still add a Greymane to their own setup as well. They need also one of the frontliners that could, in this case, for example, I mean, it could range from a Johanna to like whatnot. Fnatic has all the options at this point. They could play it with a Diablo if they really wanted to, if they feel that they get the value out of it. Johanna has a few more interrupts that she can use and a couple of very nice stuns as well, which is always kind of handy to have if you're playing on a map like Cursed Hollow. And Nuborak, then again, of course, also pretty nice for the Initiate as well. If you are going for Underking on level 4, then you also have like a huge dive distance, which helps you to interrupt objectives if you are willing to commit all the way. But a Nuborak is definitely one of the heroes that has seen a lot more play, as did Arthas, by the way. So Arthas is another hero that we oftentimes see, and there will be a lot of lockdown. And Arthas is also one of these guys that has a lot of like bruising abilities, since he can not only provide CC, but at the other side he has also the damage output that you really need oftentimes with it. And it would be a very melee heavy composition. A Brightwing together with a Rhaegar, on the other hand, is something that I didn't really expect here. We have seen combos like this in the past a bit, but not to such an extent. So Fnatic with a Brightwing pick here. Brightwing, Rhaegar, and that is already this is gonna be a pretty fun one. I'm really curious to see how they're gonna play this. Unless this is like a bug in the draft tool, but I don't really think that's the case. The evil Murkies, they apparently are also not quite sure how to react to that. Keep in mind that Brightwing is also a pretty solid hero against a lot of, like even against like Tracer. And there is Tracer. This is exactly what I've been talking about earlier. Tassadar, Abathur, and Tracer are being used, and I guess this is why Fnatic might have had it into Brightwing, because they just said, well, we kind of know what you do. Brightwing is pretty solid against that. We have more lockdown. Yeah, we have a double support, but I guess we can make that work. So, like, call me intrigued. Like, I'm definitely interested to see how that game is going to end. Cursed Hollow, ladies and gentlemen. Evil Murkies versus Fnatic, the semi-final at the Go for Heroes tournament. Game is up, ladies and gentlemen. Evil Murkies versus Fnatic. We're a little bit later to the party here in the game, so we make it quick. We have to the left side the Evil Murkies in blue, and to the right side it is Fnatic. With the lineups that you just saw on screen, this time we can actually not go for the personal introduction, but of course, like, you should know these teams pretty well. We have also a few changes on the side of the Evil Murkies on the other hand. We have Venabilly currently on his Falstad, and we see Lothair on Tassadar, whereas Q is actually playing Abathur. But as you already saw in the draft, we have a very interesting setup on the side of the Evil Murkies here, playing again that Tracer style with Abathur, Tracer, and a Tassadar behind that to help out, so that should actually be pretty sweet as well. At the same time now, though, they are going up against a team like Fnatic, and that is never an easy opponent to face, so it's going to be interesting to see how that's going to work out. When it comes to the talents, by the way, we already have a few choices that are not really all that common, especially when we're looking at our Arcane on his Mirrodin. Going for the perfect storm here. Tracer already zipping around, trying to do her work. And in this case, it's Tic Tac, of course, on his account. Yeah, we kind of know his Smurf account already, since he's been using that for a couple of times in tournaments. Brightwing going into the Hyper Shift on level 1 right away. So Brightwing Rhaegar is definitely not something that you see every day. But the double support that Fnatic is currently playing might be exactly what they need, especially since they have a few more disables against Tracer with that Brightwing and the additional polymorph that they can use. We're seeing Falset also going into the auto attack build, which has become very common. And wow, now already the kill against Brightwing. Very well done here by Venabili. Very cool play here on his part. He went straight into Seasoned Marksman, and of course kills against heroes help him a lot with that. Normally that means that on level 4 we are going to see the Life Leech. There's an option to go into the Static Shield as well, but the more common build is really to go straight into Life Leech instead. And besides that, the stacking talents with a perfect storm here, that's also something that we have to watch out for later on as well. Helps, of course, also against bosses and camps in particular, so Muradin is definitely going to have a bit more of an impact when it comes to taking all of these, so that's going to be a pretty important part. Breeze already in the mid lane on his Anubarak, and I think that he's actually going to be very, very happy that Anubarak is back in the meta, since this is one of the heroes that he's been playing for a long, long time in the past. One of his preferred heroes as is. The Abathur, of course, in the game is going to be pretty fun. And one of the things that I want to highlight for a moment is that we actually see both of the teams not going for the Siege Giants, which is something that normally happens in Cursed Hollow, since you're trying to time them with the first tribute so that the team... one of the teams is going to get a little bit lucky. It's more or less the Siege Giant lottery that we have there, because depending on where the tribute spawns, one team is going to be more or less a free push on the opposite lane. That is always going to be a bit of a nuisance there. I mean, we have a couple of like global abilities with Falset and also with Brightwing in place, so that could counteract it to a certain extent, but this is what we oftentimes have. Instead, we see now the Bruiser camp taken. That is a massive push into the mid lane, especially since most of the tower ammunition has already been drained a bit earlier. So Fnatic is really trying to put the screw zone here. The problem that we're seeing for the Evil Murkies with their comp is that in the beginning they have only 4 bodies in the game, and that of course means that the red team, that Fnatic, should be able to pick up the early tributes. Since Abathur just doesn't have a clone available to him just yet, that's going to happen later on level 10. And it could lead to an early curse in favor of Fnatic if they play it right. So that's something that we have to definitely watch out for. But at least for now, they're trying to contest, and Brightwing is still up at the top, soaking, as does Abathur. So Shrimpy and Q are the two that are still trying to soak experience for the team, which is one of the reasons why we don't even see an experience lead just yet for Fnatic. Fnatic still dancing around the tribute, and at this point, it is a 4 versus 4 fight that we currently have down here. So they're starting to go straight in for it again. Tribute is still up for a long time, by the way, already. And both of the teams are starting to head into level 7 to secure themselves the next talent. Brightwing still at the top, so far not really needed. And at this point, Fnatic needs to make sure that they get that tribute. For the Evil Murkies, this is, by the way, a great situation. The longer it takes Fnatic to take the tribute, the higher the chances are of the Evil Murkies that they will get a tribute fight on level 10 later on before a curse can potentially hit them. And that's really, really important. But both of the teams now already on level 7, and there's a kill against Tracer. Great interrupt. Shrimpy with a polymorph, and therefore no chance for Tracer to get away. That's why we actually see Shrimpy here on Brightwing. Well done here. Great interrupt, and that worked perfectly for them. Now on level 7, when it comes to the talents, we're seeing not only the Arcane Barrage on Brightwing, but also the Phase Shield. It's a pretty standard build for Brightwing thus far. Rhaegar playing it with a Cleanse here. And this is, of course, another thing that is lacking when we're looking at the setup for the Evil Murkies. They don't have access to Cleanse with the hero setup that they use here. We're seeing Tracer with a Slipstream into the Parting Gift, into the Spatial Echo, which is basically the build that we've seen in every single game where the Evil Murkies play Tracer so far. So let's see how this is going to work out for them. Quacknix actually is falling already. Tracer with very nice damage output in these fights. But of course she has to be very careful about the attacks with CC in general. Not only the gravity lapse that we see on the side of, Khaldor, but then also Brightwing and Anubarak. There's a lot of lockdown available to them. Secret weapon after the Seasoned Marksman start for Venabili on his false stat for the Murkies. We're having the Piercing Bolt now too. Interestingly, no Sledgehammer though. Instead we're having the Thunderburn here. I'm a little bit torn on that, to be honest with you. I really thought that with the Perfect Storm as a level 1 talent, if you go for the stacking power, then adding the Sledgehammer is just a pretty amazing tool, because you more or less get extra value against camps, against structures, and against bosses, of course, too. So it surprises me a bit that Muradin does not take the synergy here. Besides that, though, we're having a Anubarak after his Regeneration Master with Legion of Beetles and the Shed Exoskeleton, which is also going to be an important part here. Both of the teams on level 9, but look at that lockdown. Arcane about to fall, and he goes down. Muradin is already taken apart, and here comes the attack against Tassadar, who gets blown to pieces. Quacknix with a very nice reaction here, using the gravity labs to initiate a CC chain against Tassadar and then taking it out. 3 kills against 2 in favor of currently Fnatic. Q, of course, has been doing Avatar things at the top lane in the meantime. Has made sure that he has a chance to actually get a little bit more experience for his team, and that results in both of them hitting level 10 roughly around the same time. Great kill against Falsot here at the bottom. Fnatic really knows how to perfectly time those CC chains that they're running here. In this case, it was Anubarak together with Brightwing, making sure that they just locked Falsot down long enough so that could get the value out of here. We have the Locust Swarm taken for Anubarak, as you can see, Phoenix, Ancestral Healing. It's also, of course, Blink Heal for Brightwing. And when we're looking at the opponent, we're having at the same time now Avatar with the Ultimate Evolution. And this is really when things start to become a bit more real for the Evil Murkies. If you play an Avatar composition, you actually should not be able to take the first 2 tributes. It shouldn't really happen, because you find yourself in a situation in which you will always be one body down in the fights for the tribute if your opponent moves in with all 5 men. And right now, this is the first time where, with a good timing on the copy, the Evil Murkies can take an even fight. I mean, the whole idea, of course, is also a bit to soak extra experience with Abathar in the meantime and try to get an experience lead. That kind of backfired a bit as Brightwing is used as a counterpart to him, and that's also a bit of an issue. But for now, at least, they can try and make these plays. Already the lockdown here against once more Smexy. Here comes the ult on Tracer. They're all starting to jump in. Already the push away. Smexy is low. Q jumps in. Needs to be careful here with his copy on Tracer. Tracer moving deep to try and get Breeze, but he gets Ancestral. Q is still alive, by the way, on his Tracer. Gets the damage in here. Is, of course, going to fall eventually, but that's a lot of free damage that he's able to push out there. But Fnatic is still in full force, and they have no issues at all. They can simply go for the tribute, and it looks more and more like the Evil Murkies are gonna get cursed here. Our Arcade is in trouble, tries to get out, but Muradin is dying once again. Whoopi with too much damage. We're seeing Tracer with a potential kill against Smexy, going deep, but not able to dish the damage out. The problem for them really is that with the healing that we are seeing not only from Veigar but also for Brightwing, this is just so much sustain that Fnatic is currently bringing to the table, and they still have the damage output on the remaining 3 heroes. There's the curse now against the blue team, and in the meantime we already saw the siege camp at the bottom of the map just pushing straight through that fort for the tower. Venom Lily is going straight and tries to get at least some experience back, and of course de-pushing the lane. But in the meantime we have not only a bit of an experience push in the middle of the map where Shrimpy is trying to get some extra experience, but a massive push at the top lane as well, where Smexy, Whoopi and Quacknix are aiming straight for that fort, and they are going to claim that for sure. The level 13 talents have now also been hit, and it's the Fission Bomb for Kalphas that is being used. Quacknix is most likely going to go into the Master of Flames then on level 20 and make sure that he gets the spread in those fights. But at this point we also have the extra damage for Anubarak with the Eradicating Spines, which is going to be a huge talent for him. Anubarak with this talent can get so much damage in. He has with his Shed Exoskeleton also the attempted movement speed, which is going to help Priest to stay alive in these situations. They're not really playing a massive super hit point tank that is difficult to take out, but they have 2 now with Sonya next to Anubarak that can also initiate, and that's exactly what we see here. Nice stun chain again, this time against Tracer, and the deep dive by Breeze that has been used here. Totally worth it for them right now. The big push against the keep already happening, and with a talent advantage and also a numeric advantage right now, it looks very much like they might be able to take keep here. Q had to use copy on Abathar. There comes at least an attempt by Venerably to use that false that Mighty Gust to push them into a corner and try and push them back, but it's not enough damage output that they have on their side. And as I said before, with that double heal, it's way too much for the Evil Murkies to handle. They don't have the damage output once that the copy on Abathar is out. The kill against Falstad showcases that also pretty well. The lockdown that we have for Fnatic is insane. 7 kills against 2 at this point. And even with Q doing a pretty solid job on the toxicness on the map here, it's just nothing that the Evil Murkies can do right now. 10 minutes into the game and the forced keep has already been eliminated, whereas everyone else is just like moving back to camps. We're seeing Quacknix and will be aiming towards the right side to get another Siege Giant camp right now. Level 13 talents are finally in play when it comes to the Evil Murkies. Their biggest problem is really a nice dodge by Shrimpy. Dodging the Storm Bolt, and that was important because without that he would have died there. But right now we're seeing not only the Bullet Spray, which is of course also going to make the wave clear for Tracer a bit easier, but the Giant Killer, and we have also the Soma Transference, which should make it a bit easier for Muradin to stay alive if he has to dive the front line very much alone. They're trying to get a kill against Smexy, and that could actually work this time. Even with Brightwing jumping in, it might be enough, but it looks like he's able to escape here thanks to the level 1 tunnel with the extra speed, and it's Falstad instead that dies. Tassadar might also fall. Lotea is very much alone here. Gets shield after shield, but Breeze is already on him. Nice wall there. The problem is that Q just doesn't have the damage output that he needs, and guess what? There's no escaping this one either, because there's still a fort there. So Q loses the copy, a double kill against Falstad and Tassadar, and Fnatic hits level 16 as is. Once more the attempt to go straight for Tracer. She's able to escape, jumps in again, dodges the spear on the other hand. Wooby not able to lock her down. Breeze thinking about diving for it, but deciding against it. They just take the opportunity and go towards the boss, and that is an easy pick for them. And that boss is just going to push another keep here, of course. There is another tribute also on the map right now, but the one thing to remember, oh my god, Tracer down. They try to contest, they can't, they didn't have Tassadar with them. Billy is maybe trying to go for a gust. He might have to use that as is though, but he won't be able to steal that boss away. Even with our arcade moving in, he shouldn't be able to steal that away. I mean, he's looking for it. Here's the vision. Boss is there. They're taking it. Mighty Gust being used in immediate stun against Venerably though. And he also pushed them into the corner over here, so not away from the spot. And the evil Murkies, I mean, they have been showing some great games lately, but in this games, they are outmatched. The draft just ending up in favor of the opponent. 20 hit points on Falstad, but he is able to escape. The problem is that the bot lane wall is already eliminated before the boss even arrives at the battle. And with a talent advantage and also a numeric advantage about to be hit, they're at a great spot. There's no copy on Avatar up just yet. There it is. Q starting to move in. Has a double Falstad right now at his disposal that he's trying to use. Moving in deep for this one. Muradin is jumping in now too. They're trying to get the kills at this point. The kill against Tracer. Again, she's not able to survive. Even with the shields on Tassadar, it's too much of a problem. Our arcade is about to fall again, and the copy on Q's Avatar is also eliminated. Deep dive against Lotea. He doesn't have level 16 just yet. Breeze gets the kill. And another keep falls. 2 keeps already down. Fnatic with 13 kills against 2 is just showcasing how strong they currently are. And they are aiming straight for core now. They want to go through the finals. And it looks very much like the evil Murkies are not going to be able to turn this around anymore. Falstad dies again. Abathur is the only one who is still alive, and that is just not enough for them to handle. So here comes the attack against the core, and that's going to be a successful one. Great play on the side of Fnatic, and even with Tracer being the highest damage dealing hero in the game, it's not enough for the Murkies to win the match on Cursed Hollow. GG, and Fnatic advances to the finals.